Great to see Mickey's face and everybody else's little teams circles. If you haven't already told me in the chat what city and state you're watching this from, if you're willing, I would love you to type that in. There is a reason that I'm asking this question. So this program is going to consider our connections to the night sky, and I'm going to start right off with a star story. So go ahead and find yourself a nice comfy spot in your seat, wherever you are. And I'm going to share a story that is told throughout Asia and has many versions and variants. And I'm going to share one particular version of it from China that I really like. And this is how it goes. A long time ago, in a village in China, there lived a young man with his water buffalo. And during the day, they would work the fields together. And then at night, they would go down to the river. And the buffalo would frolic in the water. And the young man would be on the riverbank and he would play his bamboo flute. And on one night, the music of this flute, it traveled up and up and up, all the way to the heavens, where the Queen Mother, the King Father, and the Weaver Princess lived. The Weaver Princess, her job was to weave colorful silks at the heavenly loom, and she would drape them across the clouds to dry. And on this one particular night, she heard the music of the bamboo flute. And so she hopped from cloud to cloud all the way down to the ground, where she met the young man. They talked, they sang, and they fell madly in love. And they were very happy together. Time went by. The water buffalo, it grew old and sick, and it said to the young man right before it died, it said, "You must sew my hide into a cloak when I am gone, because the cloak will perform a miracle for you." Well, soon he needed a miracle because the Queen Mother was walking by the heavenly loom and noticed it had gotten rather dusty. She hadn't seen her daughter in a long time. So she sent the heavenly guards down to earth. They found the Weaver Princess. They brought her back up to the sky where she sat at the heavenly loom and she watered the heavenly gardens with her tears. Every clear night, the young man would look up at the sky and try to get a glimpse of the Weaver Princess. And then he remembered the buffalo cloak. He put it on and a miracle happened. As if by magic, he was lifted off of earth, up and up and up. And soon he could see the heavenly loom. He could see the Weaver Princess rushing out to greet him, the big smile on her face. But he also could see behind her the Queen Mother. She pulled a silver pin out of her hair and she drew a silver river across the sky. And then she took the young man and she turned him into a star, Altair. Then she took her own daughter, the Weaver Princess, and turned her into a star, Vega. And there they were, separated by the Silver River. But the King Father, he took pity on the young couple and he decreed once a year on the 7th day of the 7th month, the magpies of the heavens would form a bridge across the Silver River, and the Weaver Princess could cross over that bridge and hang out with her lover for one day. And on that day, there is to be a feast to celebrate the couple. I've been told it's Chinese Valentine's Day. And if there's a rainbow in the sky, obviously, it's the Weaver Princess. In her haste to get to her young man, she has strewn her colorful silks across the sky. And that night, if it rains, it's the Weaver Princess, of course, sobbing because she has to return home to the other side of the Silver River for a whole nother year. I want to share my screen to show you the stars that I'm talking about. So if you look at this image, you'll see the Silver River, which is the Milky Way. Scientists will tell you a very different story about how that Silver River came to be. It's a path of starlight that represents the geometric plane of our galaxy. And you'll see on one side, there's Vega, the Weaver Princess, and then on the other is Altair, the young man, her lover. And as an epilogue to this story, it does have a scientific epilogue. Vega does not actually jog across the Silver River at any time of the year. The stars are moving, though. Everything's moving from our point of view. Now, you're not going to notice stars, though. They're so far away, stars other than the sun, they're so far away that you're not going to notice their motion relative to one another over a short period of time, like a human lifetime. And in the grand cosmic scheme of things, even a bunch of human lifetimes is just a blink. So this story is at least 2,000 years old, and the people who first told it, they saw the same star patterns that you can see tonight in the sky. So we are connected to the people who came before us and the people who will come after us by the night sky and by the stories that we tell about it. So that's one of our connections to the night sky. It's not just our natural heritage, it is our cultural heritage. So I want to talk a little bit more about our connections with the night sky, what's threatening those connections, and then how we can become reconnected with the sky. And the place where I get to do this is Moorhead Planetarium and Science Center. And this is an image in the background from one of our sky watching sessions in years past at Jordan Lake. And here's a picture of Moorhead Planetarium. This is the west entrance of the building. We're part of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. So we're right on campus. We're on Franklin Street. And the planetarium is actually not that dome on the left. That's Moorhead Observatory, big telescope there. It's not the dome on the right. That's the state dining room. It's actually in the middle here, the planetarium dome. So I get to tell the science and stories of the night sky there, and then also under the real sky as well. So I'm going to show you some images of tonight's night sky, and they're going to be generated by the planetarium software Stellarium. So this is the website in case you're like, oh, I want to do this too. I want to see pictures of the night sky for any date, location, and time. You can download it at stellarium.org. There's also a web-based version you can use as well. Okay, so I'm going to ask Julia, if you can tell me, since I can no longer see the chat easily, can you tell me what townspeople are saying that they are in?
So we have got Cheryl's Ford, Hillsboro, Raleigh, Cary. We got a few people. Raleigh, Wilmington.
All right. Okay, great. So it looks like everybody who has told us where they are is all in North Carolina, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, great. Okay, so just a little context here. When you walk outside, which I hope you do often, I hope you did it today. I think most of us in North Carolina had a stunning spring sunny day today. Half your field of view is the sky. And at night, if it's clear, you are looking into the universe. So the sky is part of nature and we are deeply connected to it. So, you know about the obvious ways. Our daytime star, the sun, is responsible for life on our planet. But the nighttime stars are vital for us too, for surviving and thriving, not just for us humans, but for all beings on Earth, the beings that we share this planet with. And our bodies also are literally made from star stuff, as Carl Sagan famously put it. The night sky has also inspired not just stories and legends and myths, but also religion and art and literature and scientific discovery. So thank you, those of you that told me where you are. That helps me understand the sky that you will see tonight. There are three main things that determine what sky you can see. So first off is your location. And what really matters is latitude, where you are north, south on the globe, how close you are to the equator or to one of the poles. Longitude doesn't matter as much as you might think. So it looks like everybody's in North Carolina, so we have essentially the same sky. And so location relates to how the sky actually provides you with a compass. There are two other factors that determine what sky you can see. One is date, where Earth is in its orbit around the sun. So the sky also provides us with a calendar. And then there's a third factor that determines what sky we see, and that's time of day or time of night. And that relates to Earth's rotation. So what part of Earth you're on, is it facing towards the sun? Is it facing away from the sun? The sky also provides you with a clock. Okay, so let's go over that. Let's find out how you can actually use the sky to find your way. So if anybody has a favorite method for figuring out your directions with no fancy equipment, just your eyes in the night sky, feel free to put that into the chat. And Julia, I'm going to rely on you to tell me if you are seeing anything in the chat. Anybody got any methods they like to use to figure out maybe what direction is what?
Nothing's popped up quite yet.
And I'll mention one way that you might use sort of instinctively, which is sunrise and sunset. So you all probably know the sun rises in the east, more or less, not due east most days of the year, but roughly east, and it sets roughly in the west. So you can use the sun to tell you direction. But once the sun has gone down and night has come, I'm showing you the sky. This is the Chapel Hill sky. So, it's pretty much the same, even for the folks in Wilmington.
So we've got a couple. So we had someone say they're using the North Star. Somebody
North
else
Star.
said using the Big Dipper.
Excellent. Okay, perfect. That's exactly what we're going to do. So let's figure out how to use the nighttime stars to tell direction. So the North Star is going to help us nail down north. The thing about the North Star, though, is that it is not the brightest star in the sky. The North Star is not famous for being bright. It's famous for being in the north. So you need a method to find it. And somebody mentioned one of those methods. This is the method I think that works best in the early evening at this time of year. So if you're watching this live, April, Big Dipper is a really good method for finding the North Star. So I've got the sky set for about 75 minutes after sunset tonight. For the Chapel Hill area, that's roughly 9 p.m. Wilmington, it's a little bit earlier that you would see this sky, but just by a few minutes. Anybody who's watching west of here, it's a little bit later. Same idea though. Okay, so look around for the Big Dipper, everybody. See if you can spot it. It's 7 bright stars, 3 in the handle, 4 in the bowl. And I'm really going to help you out. I'm actually gonna circle that area. Julia, can you see my pointer when I wave it around? Okay, so maybe you can see this. 1, 2, 3 in the handle, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the bowl. So what we're going to do is we're going to use these pointer stars. The side of the bowl, the star is Merak, and then we're going to go through Doobie, and then we're just going to keep going, Doobie, 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 Doo. And we're going to hit Polaris, the North Star, and you can see that it's right over that red letter N that you will not see in the real sky, although you'll see it in our planetarium sky. Nice red letter N. And I'll help you out a little bit, show some outlines. So the Big Dipper is part of a constellation called Ursa Major, the Big Bear. And not everybody has seen a bear in that part of the sky or a Big Dipper for that matter. Whatever is important to your culture, that's going to be more likely what you're going to see. So the Big Dipper has been seen, for example, as a drinking gourd. It's been used by enslaved people to help find their way north to freedom. It's been seen in various parts of the world as a camel, an elephant, a wagon, a plow. But whatever you see it as, if you just use those 2 stars, they will point your way to Polaris, which is part of the constellation Ursa Minor, the little bear, or the Little Dipper. It's the tip of the handle of the Little Dipper. But again, you don't have to see a bear there or a dipper. You can see whatever you like. So that's how you can use the sky as a compass. Use the Big Dipper or whatever you want to call it to find Polaris, the North Star. And the reason why this works is that Polaris just happens to be sitting over Earth's North Pole. So it's over our planet's axis of rotation. Not exactly, but close enough to do the job. We really lucked out that there's a star roughly in that area because, by the way, there is not a good South Pole star. So we lucked out in the Northern Hemisphere. So you can use the sky as a compass. If you can figure out the North Star, you've nailed down north. And once you've got one direction, you've got them all. But also, the sky provides you with a clock. So let me show you a long exposure photograph of the northern part of the sky so you can get a feel for how things move over the night. So if you're looking away from the north, you'll see things rise in the east and set in the west because Earth rotates in the opposite direction from west to east. So that's why during the day, the sun rises in the east, sets in the west. At night, other stars rise in the east, set in the west. But really, they're all moving around that pivot point that's marked by Polaris. So see if you can figure out in this long exposure photograph which star is Polaris. And I'm going to guess it's probably that one or that one right there. And so it's the star that's not moving quite as much as all the others. So things in the northern part of the sky, they just turn around in a big circle, getting higher and lower and higher again, at least for our latitude here throughout North Carolina. And there's a Southern Paiute story about this where Polaris, the North Star, is seen as a mountain sheep who's climbed the biggest and best and most skilled of all the mountain sheep, but climbed a very, very steep mountain with very smooth sides via a path on the inside, and then got to the top and couldn't get down again. And then got turned into a star. And then these other stars that you see circling around over the night, those are the other mountain sheep that are endlessly circling the base of the mountain, trying to find a way to join their friend at the top. So you can see that the whole sky turns around us every 24 hours, and that is because of Earth's rotation, which is happening every 24 hours, creating another day and night cycle. And by the way, if y'all have questions about anything I'm saying, you feel free to drop it into the chat. And then Julie, if you see anything that is a burning question, go ahead and interrupt me. Okay, so the sky provides you with a compass. It provides you with a clock. It also provides you with a calendar. So I'm going to tell you a story from Greek myth that involves Orion and his enemy. So see if you can find the constellation Orion. So this is the sky. Again, right about 9 p.m., about 75 minutes after sunset, and we're looking towards the west. So anything in the west, by definition, will be setting. So that is why I can show you Orion, which is a winter constellation, even though it's spring, because we've gotten out early in the evening and we can still catch constellations from the season before, but you got to look fast because they're going to set before the night goes on much longer. And it's really the spring constellations that are dominating. So look around, see if you can see Orion. The easiest part of him to find is his belt, 3 bright stars right in a row. And I'll help you out. There's Orion's belt. And then I'm really going to help you out. And there's how you might connect the dots with Orion. And if you go out tonight, and I hope you will, go out right after nightfall and you'll see bright, bright Venus in the west. It is absurdly bright. You cannot miss it as long as there's not a tree in the way. And then Mars will be up higher. And then also look for Orion while you're there. Okay, so here's my short story about Orion. And lots of versions of this. I'm going to tell you the one I like because it relates to how the sky is like a calendar. And this is how it goes. Orion, the hunter, boasted one day that he was such a great hunter, he could kill every beast on earth if he wanted. None of them would be able to elude him. Well, that was asking for it. So the gods sent a tiny scorpion to prove him wrong. And that scorpion stung Orion on the heel fatally. But before he died, he got his revenge. He clubbed the scorpion to death. So it was like this double homicide. And then the gods placed the two enemies on opposite sides of the sky so they'd never see each other again. And that, according to Greek myth, is why you see Orion best in the winter, but the scorpion best in the summer. And in fact, if you go out tonight and you see Orion setting in the west, you can look towards the east, but you will not see the scorpion until later in the night. So let's stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning tonight and look over to the east, and you will see the scorpion rising. And by the way, the waning gibbous moon will be hanging out near the scorpion tonight. The moon's always moving on, so that's the situation just tonight. Those of you watching this live on April 10th. Your mileage will vary if you are watching on a different date. And by the way, if you're like, I thought it was called Scorpio, that's what the astrologers call it. The astronomers call it Scorpius. And then scientists, of course, are going to give you a different explanation for why you see different constellations better at different times of the year. And it has to do with Earth's orbit around the sun. So if you can kind of imagine the sun, imagine Earth cruising around the sun, 66,000 miles an hour. Every trip, every orbit around the sun is 1 year. Definition of a year, one Earth orbit. So imagine the nighttime side of Earth, the side pointing away from the sun. Every single night, we point to a slightly different part of the Milky Way galaxy. So stars, on average, rise and set about 4 minutes earlier each night. So night after night after night, if you keep looking, week after week, season after season, you will see that different constellations come into view. So right now we've moved from winter into spring, and so we're starting to really have the spring constellations dominate. But if you stay up late enough, you'll actually see the summer constellations like the Scorpion. So the sky also provides you with a calendar. Okay, and then I couldn't resist just because there's so many interesting things going on in the sky right now. Let's see if we can find Venus here. And if you all look closely, maybe you can see like what looks like the label's kind of covering it a little bit, a little star cluster right here. Sometimes people tell me it looks like a microscopic dipper. It's actually the Pleiades or the Seven Sisters. It goes by a bunch of different names. Pleiades, Seven Sisters, M45. In Japan, it's Subaru. If any of you all have a Subaru car, take a look at the emblem on your car sometime. In Monachi culture, these are folks native to Central California. They say it's the 6 onion-eating wives. 6 women who loved eating onions more than they loved their own husbands. They escaped into the sky with their stinky onion breath and turned into this lovely star cluster. This star cluster is part of the constellation Taurus the Bull. And in fact, it is represented on the Durham city flag because Durham, of course, is the Bull City. So next time you go to Durham, take a look at the flags that are hanging around downtown, and you'll see a representation of the Pleiades. Okay. So any questions or comments I need to know about, Julia?
No, we did have someone mention that they are coming from the Outer Banks. So.
Oh, wow. Nice. I hope you're in the dark part of the Outer Banks where you get a nice sky, starry sky.
Yeah, they're in the Kill Devil Hills.
Wow. Okay. Well, great. Thanks for joining. Okay. So we've talked about how the sky provides you with a compass, a clock, a calendar. It also provides you with a time machine. And I mean this more in a literal sense than a metaphorical sense. So the next story I want to tell you involves the star Arcturus. And so there's a couple of ways you can find it. One is if you look for the Big Dipper. So I keep switching the view around on you. I've taken you back to 9 p.m. now. Now we're looking kind of more north, kind of east, northeast. And high in the sky, we've got that Big Dipper. But rather than using the pointer stars to get ourselves to Polaris, the North Star, we're going to use the handle. So the handle is kind of curved. Another word for curve is arc. So you can arc off the handle to Arcturus. Or another thing you can do at this time of the year, Arcturus is the brightest star of spring and summer. We still have Sirius in the sky, which actually is a little bit brighter, but soon it'll disappear. It won't be in the sky anymore at nightfall. And then Arcturus will reign as the bright star of the night sky. And so it always makes me think of that rhyme, starlight, star bright, the first star I see tonight. I wish I may, I wish I might have the wish I wish tonight. So everybody, just take a few seconds right now. Go ahead and make your wish on Arcturus. Okay, and forevermore, when you see this star, and maybe you'll see it tonight in the east if you go out at nightfall, kind of around 9 p.m. or so. I hope you'll think of this story. So this story, actually, it's a true story. It's a science story. It takes place in the past, 90 years ago. It illustrates how the sky is like a time machine. It takes place in the year 1933. So I don't know if it's all adults watching or not. You may all already know your history, but let's just review really quickly. So 1933, we're talking between the two world wars. We're talking Great Depression era. 1933 was so long ago, the telegraph system was still in operation as a means of long distance communication. And the city of Chicago was getting ready to host a really big event, the World's Fair. This was actually the second time Chicago had had the honor of hosting a World's Fair. So World's Fair, we're talking hundreds of events, hundreds of exhibits from around the world showcasing the technology and culture of that era. And it's a thing that goes on for months. And the opening night was May 27th, 1933. And at 9:15 p.m., there were thousands of people gathered on the shores of Lake Michigan in the dark. And this is how they turned the lights on. They took 4 telescopes in 4 different US states. Not one of these telescopes was in Chicago, and they aimed them at this star, Arcturus. The starlight from Arcturus was allowed to collect through the telescopes onto photocells. This was new technology in 1933. Photocells can take light, turn it into a form of electrical energy that they then amplified and sent to Chicago via telegraph. That then resulted in a switch being flipped, which flipped some other switches, which then activated the entire outdoor lighting system for the World's Fair. Starlight from Arcturus opened the 1933 World's Fair. Okay, so why Arcturus for the big honor? What does this have to do with the sky being a time machine? Well, astronomers thought that this star, Arcturus, was 40 light years away. So a light year sounds like a unit of time, but it's really a unit of distance. 1 light year is the distance light travels in a year. So give that a moment of thought. Is light something that moves slowly or quickly? The fastest thing in the universe, 186,000 miles a second. So in 1 year, light covers this huge distance. It's really hard to imagine. It's over 9 trillion miles, or nearly 6 trillion miles. Excuse me, over 9 trillion kilometers, or nearly 6 trillion miles. So 40 light years, that is so far away that starlight hitting Earth in 1933, if it came from 40 light years away, that means that traveling at the speed of light, it left Arcturus 40 years earlier in 1893. And the significance of that year in Chicago history, it's the first time they hosted a World's Fair. That's why they picked Arcturus. There is an epilogue to this story. They picked the wrong star. Arcturus is not 40 light years away. It's actually 36.7. Okay, so y'all get ready to potentially type into the chat. Now you don't lie on this one. You have to tell the truth, but I'm just curious, maybe I got lucky. Is anybody out there 36 or 37 years old right now? And Julia, you'll have to tell me if anybody's typing anything into the chat.
Nothing's popped up yet, and I can say I am not.
You are not. Okay, I'm not either.
Quite.
Okay, well, when
Looks like
you
we got
all
someone
are
typing. We might have, we got close. We got 35 and a half.
35 and a half. Okay, you know what? We're going to round you to 36. Hope that's okay. Who is it that typed that?
Let's see. Sorry if I mispronounced it. Desiree?
Desiree? Okay, Desiree, we're just going to go ahead and graduate you to 36. I might need your help doing the math here. Okay, so Desiree, Arcturus is your birthday star. What this means is that when you look at Arcturus, you are seeing it as it looked when the light left it 36 years ago, around the time you were born. So roughly 1987. Desiree, were you born in roughly 1987? I hope. Hope I did the math right there.
Yep.
Yes, excellent. So the starlight that you see tonight is as old as you are. You will be seeing Arcturus as it looked around the time you were born. The sky is a time machine. Everything that you see in the night sky, you're seeing as it looked in the past when the light left it. So when you go out tonight, in a very real sense, you're seeing the year 80, what did we just say? 1987?
That would really
okay,
great.
thank you. Thank you. Whenever I'm presenting, I lose like half my IQ points. It's like really hard to do math in front of a webcam. So you're looking at the year 1987. You cannot, none of us can see Arcturus as it looks in 2023 currently. You can only see things as they looked in the past when the light left him. Now, presumably Arcturus is still chugging along just fine. Stars live for millions to billions of years, so it's very likely when you see a star, it's actually still there in reality. It hasn't like, ended its life or anything. But still, it's kind of a cool concept. So let me show you some other examples. So let's go back to our more Western evening sky. Venus and Mars, planets, they're in our own solar system. They're close to us, but they're actually still light minutes away. We've got robotic spacecraft at Mars right now. Mars is minutes away from us in terms of light travel time. We can communicate with those spacecraft at light speed. But that means, for example, We have this Perseverance rover that's there right now that had a helicopter that hitched a ride on it, Ingenuity. The Ingenuity helicopter cannot be controlled in real time from Earth with a joystick. It's got to be capable of autonomous flight because of that light travel time. Stars, they're not just light minutes away, unless you're talking about the sun. The sun is in our own solar system. It's only 8 light minutes away. So even the sun, you're seeing 8 minutes in the past. Not that you should be staring at the sun, by the way. But the nighttime stars, they're way far away. So we're talking years to thousands of years in the past that you're looking. So I'll just show you all a few in the vicinity of Orion. So that really bright star, I mentioned it earlier, Sirius. It is 9 light years away from us. So if there's anybody in your life who is 9 years old right now, they can claim it also if they're 8, by the way, because it's actually like 8.5 light years away. They would be looking, that would be their birthday star. They would be seeing the star as it looked around the time they were born. If anybody in your life is 11 years old, Procyon is their birthday star for this year because its light travels takes 11 years to get to us. If anybody out there is 43, you get to claim Capella. If you're 65, you get to claim Aldebaran. And none of you, by the way, get to claim these nice bright stars in Orion here because like Betelgeuse and Rigel, they're hundreds of light years away. So maybe if you discover the secret to human immortality, you can claim those one day as a birthday star. And by the way, at some point, Julia will put some links in the chat with a link to our statewide star party kits. And there is a birthday star activity in there. So if you're like, wait, what about my birthday star? You can look it up. Just look for the birthday star activity on the star party kit website that we'll put up at some point. Okay, I am going to stop sharing my screen and looking at comments that people have put in here. Excellent. Thank you, Desiree, for putting your age in there. That was great. Oh, thank you, Julia. So there's the website, the North Carolina Science Festival website. So I wanted to talk a little bit. Those are just a few of the connections that we have with the night sky. It has literally been important for survival because you can use it as a compass to find your way. It's a way to tell time so that you know when to plant your crops or harvest them or when to time your religious ceremonies. And of course, it's connected to so much art and literature and storytelling and has inspired, of course, much scientific discovery. But these connections are threatened by light pollution. So some of you all might live in places where you don't really get to see very many stars. If you live near downtown Raleigh, for example, some of you get to see many more stars if you live away from bad city lights. So since I know many of you watching are environmental educators, I wanted to show you a demo. I'm not going to be able to show it to you properly because that does require a dark room. But I wanted to show it to you because it's pretty simple, and I really encourage you to use this if you get the chance. So what you're going to need is you will need to do this a flat surface on a table, or if you want to walk around, you will need a paper plate. A white paper plate works nice. You will need a little figurine. I have this little plastic man who is very inexpertly taped to my plate here. I also like to use plastic bears. This represents a pedestrian. Say you're driving outside at night. Boy, you'd really like to see this guy. You don't want to run him over. So this is a pedestrian wearing dark clothing. Or maybe this represents a suicidal deer that you'd really like to not hit with your car. Or maybe this is your friend that you're walking in your neighborhood. You really like to be able to see your friend. You're meeting him at the end of the block. Or maybe this is a mugger. You would really like to avoid him. Okay, so you're probably wanting some light to use outside at night. Let me show you what's not going to help you. So now what I've got is a flashlight that I'm going to operate in candle mode. So it's got just a bare exposed bulb. Let's make sure it actually turns on. There we go. Okay, so bare bulb up here. This represents a really bad street light, very badly designed. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on the plate. Now I've got all the lights on, so this demo is not actually going to be very effective, but in a dark room, If I had this in a dark room like a planetarium or just any sort of interior room where I've turned off the lights and maybe covered up any windows, or I'm outside at night, if I were holding this unshielded light on top of this paper plate, you would not be able to see this little man at all. You might not even be able to see the plate. So, I would be walking around the room and telling everybody about this pedestrian, poor little pedestrian, that this light is not helping you see your friend that you can't see, the mugger you can't see, and how this light is really not helpful. It's just wasting a lot of money, a lot of energy. It's contributing to pollution and climate change. It's blotting out the night sky. It's not helping your safety and security. And it's also not good for pretty much any living being. Even trees don't like light pollution. It's bad for your health, messes up your circadian rhythms, harmful to all sorts of wildlife. Everything from dung beetles to sea turtles to fireflies messes up predator-prey relationships, mating and reproduction, all of it. Okay, how do we solve this problem? This is what we call a win-win-win situation. First of all, if you don't need the light, just turn it off. There's no reason to have lights on that you're not even using. If it's appropriate, put them on timers or motion sensors. And whatever you do, put the light where you want it. So shield it. And if we were in a dark room, I can guarantee you that some child in the audience is going to say, "Ah, there's a little man." Because now you can see the little man. You couldn't see him before in a dark room. And this is the pedestrian we were trying not to hit with our car. This is the friend we were trying to meet at the end of the block. This is the mugger we were trying to avoid. So shielding lights puts the light where we want it. This means, by the way, you can use less light, less energy, and light the ground better. Stop lighting up the night sky and stop harming wildlife. So that's the easy demo. Highly recommend you try it. Paper plate or just a table if you don't want to walk around with it. Any sort of little figurine. I like little plastic bears too. And any flashlight that can be put in candle mode. This is an LED, but it can be an incandescent. It doesn't matter. And any sort of shield. This is a PVC cap, but even your hand will work in a pinch. And tell me how it works if you try it out with an audience. Okay, so how can we reconnect with the night sky if we've lost our connections? So I'm going to share my screen again. And let's go back here. Okay. So I'm going to encourage you right now to think about experiences you have had observing the night sky. I am convinced that everybody who is old enough has a night sky story. And what I mean by that is some sort of memory that's important to you. So I'm going to jog your memory right now. And by the way, I'm going to invite you to actually put these into the chat, or when we do the Q&A, if you want to unmute and share your story, you are welcome to. So let me get your mind going. For example, maybe you have a memory you're thinking of right now where you saw the Milky Way. That hazy band of starlight that stretches across the sky from horizon to horizon. In that Chinese story I told at the beginning, it was seen as a silver river. Or maybe you're thinking of a time that you shared an experience with a parent or other family member looking at the sky. Or maybe you're thinking about the first time you ever looked through a telescope. And if you've never looked through a telescope, come join us at a sky watching event sometime. This, by the way, is a group of UNC students who built this telescope. It's a Starry Night telescope. It has a representation of the old well on it, with the mentorship of a Raleigh Astronomy Club member. And they brought it out to a sky watching event in Jordan Lake. Maybe your memory involves seeing Saturn for the first time in a telescope and realizing the planet actually exists. It's for real. It's not just a photograph in a book. It actually is there, and it actually has rings that you can see in a telescope. Or maybe you have a night sky memory that involves seeing the moon. Maybe you're old enough that you actually remember seeing people walking on the moon. And by the way, a whole new generation is about to get some moon memories because they just announced the Artemis 2 crew that's going to return to the moon. Now, these folks aren't going to walk, not yet, This is a mission that's launching late next year, and it has 4 astronauts on it. They're going to loop around the moon and come back, and it includes a North Carolina woman, Christina Koch. Super exciting. Okay, maybe you have a night sky story about seeing the International Space Station passing overhead. Looks like a bright white moving star. Or maybe you've seen a meteor, streak of light going across the sky, or a whole meteor shower. Maybe you've seen a comet before. Maybe you got up early on election day last November and you saw a lunar eclipse when the full moon passed into Earth's shadow. Or maybe you remember the 2017 solar eclipse. This is in front of our building. We had an event it was just a partial solar eclipse here in the Triangle area. If you were in the southwestern corner of the state, you saw a total solar eclipse, or if you went one of the other places. So if you stayed here, you might have seen these cool crescent shapes under the tree leaves. Those are actually pinhole projection images made by the tree of the eclipsed sun. Or maybe you saw the total solar eclipse. So I'll share with you my 1-minute version of my, I call it a night sky memory, although it actually is a solar eclipse. So technically it happened in the daytime, but day turned to night. And then I want you all to think about yours. So here's my story. I went to Oregon for the 2017 solar eclipse, to the Path of Totality, to Madras, Oregon. This is my stepsister, Emily. She is holding Kelvin, who is the North Carolina Science Festival spokespot, also behind me in my living room. And we're in a traffic jam for science. And on the morning of the eclipse, we were there with my cousin Kate. And if you look really carefully in this image, it's not nearly as impressive in this photograph as it was in reality. You've got to trust me on this one. But look in the far distance, kind of in the top left of the image. See if you can figure out what that is. It's actually the second tallest mountain in Oregon, Mount Jefferson. Mount Jefferson was in the Path of Totality west of us, which meant that the moon's shadow during totality hit that mountain first before it hit us. And so what happened was that mountain suddenly, abruptly appeared to disappear when the moon's shadow hit it. And thousands of people that were in that area where we were just roared when that happened. And then seconds later, the shadow hit us, and it was like a curtain just went whoop over the landscape. And Mount Hood, the tallest mountain in Oregon, was just outside of the path, and it lit up sunset red. The sky turned black. Venus was blazing away high in the sky, and the sun, covered up by the moon, it looked like a black, perfectly round black hole had opened up in the sky. And day became night, and we all had the memory of a lifetime. So I'm wondering what you all have as stories. So invite you all, if you want to drop anything into the chat, I would love to know what your story is. And then an opportunity for you, if you'd like to create some more stories with other people, you can take your friends, your family, and meet your community and connect with the sky at the North Carolina statewide Star Party. We have a Star Party every year as part of the North Carolina Science Festival. This is the 11th annual statewide Star Party, biggest statewide Star Party for the public in the entire universe, we're pretty sure. And it happens this year on Friday, April 21st and Saturday, April 22nd. 35 public skywatching events. They are free. They are open to the public. 35 of them across the state, from the mountains to the coast. Those of you in the Triangle area, there's a bunch of them here. There's also one near Wilmington, Carolina Beach State Park, and there's also one on the Outer Banks as well. And join us. And you can see the website there. If you go to the NC Science Festival website, you can go to the Star Party page, or you can just search the calendar to find the 35 events and see if you can find one near you. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Let's see what y'all are putting in the chat.
We've got a couple of people typing, so while people are typing, I'm happy to share mine. For me, I had the opportunity to study abroad while I was in college, and I went to Namibia, Africa, which is right above South Africa on the west coast. And it was incredible to go and be there, but we spent some time out in the desert. So there is no artificial light. And I remember the first time I saw the night sky, just being amazed by everything. And I tried so hard to get a photo and take it back to show people, because I could see like the arms of the galaxy and all these stars. And it was incredible to be able to see that. We were down there in May. So it would have been their winter time. But it was really cool to be able to see that. We actually got an opportunity to kind of study some of the constellations with some people that knew the constellations of the night sky there. So.
Oh, lovely. That sounds amazing. Oh, and I see, stories are coming in here. Okay. Oh, Desiree's first word was moon. Wow. Wouldn't fall asleep without watching the moon. Oh, what a great story, being rocked to sleep on a swing on your front porch with your dad. And I see Linda, 20 years ago. Oh, you went to the Mid-Atlantic Star Party near Robbins, North Carolina. Oh, nice. Yes. Yes. Oh, you all, if you've never been to a sky watching event, definitely should go. The public sky watching events for the statewide star party, most of them are happening at night. Some of them are actually happening in the daytime. They're doing more solar observing the sun. But most of them will have amateur astronomers there with telescopes for people to look through. And then Sarah's got a story. Oh, a memory of your dogs that would join you. Oh, watching meteor showers. Lovely. I wonder what the dogs thought, if they looked at the sky at all. Oh, wow. Okay. Desiree has also been where you've been, Julia. That's pretty cool.
It was great. The other fellow, I actually got sick on the way down, so I, set up tent and slept. And when I woke up, I was in camp by myself and saw the night sky. It was amazing. They had actually gone out to watch the stars come out in the middle of the desert. So that was pretty cool for them. Unfortunately, I didn't get to join that because I got food poisoning on the trip from where we were to the desert.
The dogs were unsure. Why did we go to this field? That's excellent. And anybody else, if you would like to share in the chat, feel free to type in. And also, if anybody has any questions, we have a few minutes about anything that I talked about.
Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. Additionally, you should see a microphone icon towards the top. You're welcome to unmute yourself if that's easier for you than putting questions in the chat. And all the links that were shared during the presentation, I will email them out later today, or later this week.
Oh, Sarah, solar eclipse, yeah, in Western NC. Change in temperature and the lack of sound. Animal noise is clear and different. Yeah, I love hearing people's solar eclipse stories. And just so everybody probably knows, we're about 1 year out from another total solar eclipse, not total here. And there's actually, even before then, there's what's called an annular solar eclipse. It's a special type of partial eclipse. And these are both in the US. Here in North Carolina, they're both just sort of standard partial solar eclipses. But the annular one is October 14th of this year. That's a Saturday. And then the total solar eclipse, again, just partial here, is Monday, April 8th, 2024. And if you are planning on traveling probably to either of them, the annular, by the way, goes through a number of National Park Service units in the West. So those would be really great places to observe the annular from. The total, you want to make plans now. If you plan on staying in a hotel of any type in the path of totality for April 8th. Or if you have friends who live in the path of totality, book their extra bedroom in writing, I suggest, soon, because they're going to get very, very popular as it gets close to April 8th. Okay. Oh, and then a question from Linda. What's the best reference for the amateur night sky watcher to learn more about what we're seeing? Oh, gosh, there's so many things you can do. Okay, first of all, shameless plug. if you're able to travel to Chapel Hill, come see us at Moorhead Planetarium and Science Center and come to our Carolina Skies live planetarium show. And it is a 45-minute to 60-minute introduction to the night sky where we turn the dome above you into a simulated version of the night sky. And we teach you what you can find in the sky that night. And we also lift off Earth and take you through the universe just because we can. And it's really, really cool. Other things you can do is you can play around with that planetarium software, Stellarium. You can use an old-fashioned planisphere or star wheel. And of course, there are lots of night sky apps that you could download to your device and point them at the sky and learn what you're looking at. And then let's see. And then Kayla says, where does the path of totality go through on April 8th? It goes through, it's really easy to find online. I would recommend the American Astronomical Society eclipse site, but there's lots of places you can find maps. It goes through parts of Mexico, Texas, and then kind of comes out. It's different from the 2017 path. Kind of goes like Texas through Ohio, through like the northeastern part of the country, and actually part of Canada. The best weather prospects, statistically speaking, for that particular date is likely to be parts of Mexico and parts of Texas. So, you can take your chances with New England, Canada if you want, but just know that you're playing a little risky there because it's more likely to be cloudy in those places. And you want to be, by the way, if you're going to make the trouble to try to go to the path of totality, make sure you're actually inside the path of totality. You don't necessarily have to be like right on the center line, but you need to be in the path. You don't want to be just outside it. A 99% solar eclipse is a lot of sunlight. It's not the same experience. Okay, and then let's see what else we've got here. Oh, Sarah's saying, try to send pictures of the moon with the phone. Yeah, it can be hard. It actually looks pretty good though. If you put up a phone to a telescope eyepiece, you can actually get a really nice picture of the moon that way. Hey, if y'all have any more questions, be bold.
I've got a question for you. When can we anticipate the next like full eclipse through or is it ever going to happen through the like triangle area?
Yeah, so there is mark your calendar. See if I can remember the date right. I know it's 3 minutes of totality right at the Moorhead Planetarium sundial, and I don't know how big the path is, but I'm guessing it probably encompasses Durham and at least parts of Raleigh. I'd have to check. But the date for that total solar eclipse that's going right through North Carolina is May 11th. I think it's Tuesday, 2078. So I'll be over 100. So if I'm still alive, I'm hoping somebody will wheel me out to the Moorhead Planetarium sundial and point my face, put some eclipse glasses on during the partial phases. But yeah, on average, a given location on planet Earth only experiences a total solar eclipse roughly once every 3 centuries. Now, there's a lot of variation, but so because there's that 2017 path of totality and the 2024, they actually cross within the US. So there are some places in the US that are getting a total solar eclipse 7 years apart, which is really cool.
That is pretty cool.
I hope y'all are feeling inspired to, I can't speak for everybody, but here in Carrboro, North Carolina, it looks like it's going to be very clear tonight. So remember to go out, look for Venus in the west, Mars higher up, Orion, the Pleiades near Venus. And if you stay up really late, you can see the waning gibbous moonrise. And remember to wish on your birth, well, might not be your birthday star if you're not Desiree, but wish on starlight from Arcturus and think about how the sky is a time machine. I see somebody's typing a question or a comment maybe. Oh, Mickey Joe. So Mickey Joe and I, for many years, coordinated the statewide star party together. And she's saying that you all should join her at Carolina Beach State Park, April 21st. So that's one of the 35 star party events happening. And it's an amazing one. I've been to it before. They'll get like 1,000 people. They'll have telescopes and lots of hands-on activities and hopefully perfect weather. Thanks for mentioning that one, Mickey. And if anybody's watching from Chapel Hill, there's one at Chapel Hill Public Library, Friday, April 21st. That's actually a daytime event. That's going to be from 4 to 7 p.m. The sun won't have set, so we'll do some solar observing at that one. There's also Old North Durham Park is going to have an event that weekend. Triangle Land Conservancy is hosting a number of others, many sites. Again, there's 35 of them, so y'all can find them on the Star Party page of the North Carolina Science Festival website, or just look on the North Carolina Science Festival online calendar to find an event that's close to you.
And again, I'll send out all those links so you don't have to worry about scribbling it down real quick so you have it. But if nobody else has any more questions for Amy, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us tonight. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I did not know that there was such a thing as a birthday star, so that's really cool. I'm going to have to figure out which one's my birthday star. Again, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. For those of you that are seeking EE credit, I will send out that form later this week, as well as a link to the recording. Again, thank you, Amy, for taking the time to